Okay, it's 9 o'clock. The regular session of Mills County Commissioners Court for July 22nd, 2021 is in session. If you would join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes, please bow with me. Father, thank you for this day that you have granted us. Father, thank you for all that Mills County has to offer. Father, be with us today as we do the business of Mills County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let me start off with a correction. I believe I said July 21st. I just misread it. It's obviously July 26th. Present, we have all of myself, Commissioners Wright, Guerin, Parton, and Williams, so 100% of the court. We have County Attorney Gerald Hale, County Treasurer Summer Campbell, County Clerk Sonia Scott. Just looking to see. We've got, I guess, since we have everybody here in person, there's no point in going through introductions for the online session, so we will stop at that point. Item 2 on the agenda is to review and act on the minutes of July 12th. I've reviewed them. Has the court reviewed any corrections or comments?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wright, a second from Commissioner Williams. All in favor say aye. Aye. We have unanimously approved the minutes of July 12th. I might mention for the benefit of the court to try and pull your mics close when you're talking and speak into them. Ms. Brooks told me before I came up here that some of the sound quality was spotty. Okay, so that's next item on the agenda is audience with individuals. We have Karen McMahon has signed up to speak about the appraisal district budget. Ms. McMahon, you may speak now, or you want to wait till we get to the budget?
I would like to wait till we get to that part of the agenda, if you don't mind.
Be glad to. We'll call on you then.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next item number 4 is consider an act on approval of accounts payable is distributed electronically Friday. Any questions or comments from the court?
I make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have unanimously approved the accounts payable. Okay, number 5, consider an act on tax assessor collector reports for May and June. This is the monthly departmental report out of Mills County Tax Assessor Collector. We usually have all of these in the first agenda of the month. This report was missing last time. We passed it. It's so noted in the minutes. And here's the report showing the collection activity for 2 months, the month of May and the month of June. Any questions on this report? If not, I'd move approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the monthly report from the Tax Assessor Collector's Office. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, next we have the optional county vehicle registration fees. This comes from the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, the optional fees that Mills County charges as a county road and bridge fee, not to exceed $10, and a child safety fee not to exceed $1.50. These fees, those are the fees that have been charged by Mills County for several years. I don't know when this started. It was before my time. I didn't bother to go back and check it. What we're faced with is just that we have to annually reaffirm that, yes, we're not going to make any changes, or no, we do want to make changes. These are the maximum fees. So the issue is you either approve these or we approve some lower amount. And that's what's before the court. I'd propose we renew as is.
I think it's better for us to leave it as is also. Make a motion to do that.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wright to approve the existing.
I'll second it.
And a second from Commissioner Gearing. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consider an act on the annual interlocal agreement with the Regional Public Defender's Office for Capital Cases. This used to be called the, I think it was the Lubbock Public Defender's Office. This is a service they provide to many counties where if we were to have a capital murder trial in Mills County, they would provide the defense attorney. This is the cost to Mills County to participate in this is $1,000. That is a bargain. A capital murder case defense attorney could cost, many times that. And I'd propose we renew the agreement. I would want to caution you that this is not, if we were to have a capital murder case, this is not means it would be of no cost. There's still potential cost for expert witnesses, travel, things like that would not be included. But this is the cost of the defense team.
Make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement with Regional Public Defenders for capital cases.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Commissioner Williams, second from Commissioner Parton. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, consider an act to designate as surplus, salvage, or worthless salvage various items from the Sheriff Department. There's a list in your agenda. I would invite Chief Deputy Green, if we can pass him the microphone to explain what the equipment is and what the situation is, Deputy. Thank you.
All right, the list we've got is, it looks kind of long, but it's really not a whole bunch of equipment. I believe the majority of them down there on the bottom of the serial numbers are for video visitation units from the jails. Those were replaced probably not quite a year ago. They became kind of troublesome. They were break, and we had to get people quite far off to get them fixed. So our current vendor replaced them at very good cost, essentially no cost to us. So, these units are obsolete. There is no real value in them other than parts. I've contacted the original company that put them in no longer exists, so I've contacted the company that came after that. They said they were willing to pick them up for a part amount because they still service some of these units occasionally. So, but basically they're of no use to us.
Are these cameras or recorders or?
Well, they're basically a monitor with a phone handset and a little camera where a person can sit here and talk and visit with someone across the building and be able to do it face to face.
Questions from the court?
The Troy Products Police Vehicle Consoles, these consoles we've had quite a while. I don't know what they came out of, but these consoles are vehicle specific. So I know at least one of them is out of Crown Vic. So and I believe the other one's out of the Charger, but I can't swear to you, but these are, like I said, vehicle specific. There are no use for strap out. The last thing, the Tough Lock vehicle storage box, it's about a 4x4 sliding drawer that we used to have in our SUVs. There's nothing wrong with it, so we were gonna put it up for whoever might want it, the commissioner or whoever in the county might want it. That would be acceptable to us. If it's of some use, if not, we just figure it out Cowboys. However y'all want to work that.
Questions from the court?
Do we need a different motion on each one since some of them are scrap, some of them are surplus, or would you recommend that?
Yeah, I mean, we just gotta be careful. If anything we designated, we was salvage surplus, had to be sold. If it's designated as scrap, it would be disposed of trash, property. But anything that's of any value, it's for it, it's designated as surplus means it's still operational purpose that it was intended. It doesn't need it anymore. Salvage means it's no good for what it was intended, but it still has some value for it. Salvage. The only thing on the list is this. Just need to make sure you designate it. Dispose of it consistently with the way you designate it.
The only thing on the list is just the toolboxes then.
Yeah,
Well,
the toolbox would be surplus and everything else would be scrap.
no, the last one's salvage. There's three different.
Well, that's what it's on this list as, but is there any value to be retrieved from the video monitors?
No. Not to us.
So that could be designated as scrap also, still salvage.
That's
the same.
That's what I'm hearing from our county attorney, that if we're just going to give it back to the vendor for disposal, and for no consideration, that's the only designation that can be used. Yeah. So that would change the list of what's in front of you from salvage to scrap for the video monitors. Well,
I make a motion that we declare the Tough Lock vehicle storage box as surplus to be disposed of at a later date.
okay, so we're dealing with one item here. We have a motion from Commissioner Williams to designate the Tough Lock storage box as surplus to be disposed of. Is there a second?
I'll say it.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we've unanimously declared the storage box surplus. Now,
I'll make a motion that we declare the two Troy products and the list of serial numbers for video, digital visitation as scrap.
I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second to declare the Troy Products vehicle consoles and the listed video visitation units as scrap. And motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, number 9, consider an act on Hamilton Healthcare interlocal agreement or on a resolution. What there's been a little bit of back and forth Y'all have seen some of it, and I've attached an email from the sheriff dated July 20th. So I'm proposing I have a draft resolution here explaining the background of the interlocal agreement that is duly executed by the county, that it's in the public interest of the urgent public interest of the county, and resolving and ordering that we continue to provide dispatch services until otherwise ordered. I think it's appropriate that we do this. If we need to relook at the process, it can be done, but it needs to be done studiously over time with numbers and facts. And in the meantime, we must not jeopardize the safety of our citizens.
What's yours and Clint's situation on this, Judge? I know Clint, the sheriff says he has not been involved with this situation.
Well, you've got more involvement. First of all, I can't speak for the sheriff.
Well,
I mean, I have his email, and I got that. That's all that came in out of the blue.
That's what I've read.
Last week, he was on vacation. But I mean, this goes back to 2014. I wasn't on the court, I believe, and neither was Commissioner Park, and the rest of you guys were. And that was when we transferred our EMS service, I believe, to Hamilton Healthcare via an interlocal agreement that provided, among other things, that we would provide dispatch services. And that's come back to this court a couple of times. The one I saw was in 2019. I think it was here at least once before that. And it's consistently been in that. It's been approved by the court. The sheriff's position, as I read the email, and not speaking for him past the email, was that since he wasn't a party to the agreement, it's not binding on him. And this is the contracting forum for the county. So we've agreed, we've done it in public meetings with him present. We need to not permit anybody to unilaterally pull the plug on this till we come up with a better solution.
At the time, I think we made this decision as the court situation that there was money involved for all of our equipment. And that's the reason I think he accepted that at that time. Sure. My only question, Joe, I ask you, does this court have a right to dictate what the sheriff's office does as an elected official?
Well, I think as I recall, the interlocal agreement is between the county and Hamilton Healthcare. I honestly don't believe that the county can order, the commissioner's court can order anybody to do anything they want to, but I don't think there's any way that you can force that. I don't think you can order the sheriff to do anything the sheriff is not statutorily obligated to do. And I don't think he's statutorily obligated to coordinate the 911 dispatch. But having said that, I think for sure the fact that the sheriff's office was handling that kind of dispatch was taken into consideration budgetary process. If the county is going to have to take that obligation home, then obviously that's going to involve cost. It's going to involve hiring a 911 coordinator, probably purchasing equipment, various other things that are going to be included. And if those items were all taken into consideration, sheriff and the budget, then if that's what you have to do, then I think it should be taken out of the sheriff's budget in the form of either new equipment purchases and or personnel, whatever it takes to manage. So, and I don't know if the sheriff actually said he's not going to do it.
I think the email is more or less telling us that we need to find another option.
Well, then I would say he did his word to it.
Yeah, it's kind of,
And I wouldn't sit around very long. And I think whatever it costs, should come out of the sheriff's agency I'm not talking about the sheriff's salary, I'm talking about the budget.
Has that been discussed with the sheriff, Judge? The budget?
The sheriff turned in a budget that does not appear to address this. We tried to schedule a meeting. I believe he told Ms. Campbell he didn't want to meet except in front of the whole court on the record. So the budget that the sheriff turned in, just from looking at the numbers, looks like kind of the status quo with the usual adjustment for new vehicles and salary adjustments. And no, I didn't see any significant changes.
So how do we go into an interlocal agreement without his approval?
Wait a minute. We're not doing an interlocal agreement here today. We did an interlocal agreement in 2014 or 15. I think we did it again in 16 or 18. We did it in 19. The county can enter into an interlocal agreement with another government agency, which Hamilton Healthcare is. They're a taxing entity, with the approval of the court.
So we did that.
We did that.
Okay. So what is this resolution here to force the sheriff to do that? That's kind of what it is it not?
So if he quit right now doing the EMS dispatch, how is that gonna work if somebody calls 911?
I can't answer that.
Good question.
I think, I mean,
So if my mom needs an ambulance, how are they gonna get it?
Harold, you said
Chris,
this
you
would have to
know?
come out of his budget.
I can't hear you.
This would have to come out of the sheriff. It should be,
No, I didn't.
I mean, it should. The estimates I've got talking to other counties, it's gonna cost between $500,000 and $1 million for us to switch over. And
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
a lot of
I don't think
money.
you can force the sheriff to coordinate 911. Period.
the reason this resolution's here is it outlines the history. It sets out the obvious, which may be Commissioner Williams' point, is that this is in the best interest of the county, and it orders the sheriff to continue to provide services until we order otherwise. Now, whether or not he complies, whether or not, according to Mr. Hale, this has any binding legal effect on the sheriff, may be an open issue. I think it is an important public statement for the court to make that this needs to stay in place until we can come up with a studied alternative. You can't just flip a switch and say, okay, tomorrow we're going to answer the 911 at, precinct 1 barn. I mean,
Can't we do that, Judge, without ordering the sheriff to do this resolution? I mean, without ordering it? Can't we sit down and negotiate with him?
well,
And talk with him?
number one, we couldn't last week because he wasn't here when we got that email. To me, let's say we do and decide that there's a compelling reason to change it. Hamilton County's gone to a central dispatch unit. It's taken them almost a year and they're not done. I mean, moving the lines, the staffing, all the equipment, physical location, it is a huge undertaking and takes planning. And that's why I wrote in here that until we order it otherwise, so we leave it alone. I think it's important for our citizens that we say we want to continue to provide this until we have an alternative. That I don't think anybody should unilaterally be able to jeopardize the citizens of this county. The health and safety.
Well, I see who the sheriff's office, he's just trying to negotiate with us. And to me, I feel like that's what we ought to be doing, just trying to negotiate.
Well, to me, a negotiation would have come in maybe a long time ago or in the budget process saying, hey, if we want to keep doing this, here's what I need. If otherwise, we need to come up with a schedule.
That's
And
the
that didn't happen.
Okay, that's the reason I asked if there's been a discussion on y'all during the budget.
No,
And shouldn't that have been brought up, one or the other? Our standpoint or his standpoint?
well, first of all, it's not the county standpoint to go around and negotiate with people on doing their job. Like, I haven't come to you and said, Mike, what do you think? Will you do the roads again next year or this or that? It's, if you want to change something, you come through the budget process or the court saying, hey, I think we ought to do this different, and we consider it. So no, I haven't gone out to each elected official and said, Summer, would you be willing to manage HR for the next year for the county? Because that's not her designated responsibility under the law either. But if she wanted out of it, she could come and say, hey, this is a problem. I need an extra HR clerk. I need X dollars, or you need to get somebody else.
That's what the sheriff has done with his emails, has he not?
I don't think it's even that specific. I mean, it doesn't say how much it's going to cost him to continue to provide it, and it doesn't say how much he thinks it costs to move it. It just says, I don't want to do it.
That's our responsibility to provide this service, is it not?
It's the county's responsibility. Now, if you want to look at it differently, the citizens of this county voted the bond issue to build that law enforcement center. And that includes the dispatch facility, and it includes the PSAP, and that was all approved. So now we're going to go back and re-incur those same costs to put them somewhere else.
So where the 911 money that we get from the call, how would that be divided up between the two if we did our own call center?
The 911, we don't get 911. That goes to the COG.
Right.
And in return, they provide lines and equipment and services into our dispatch room. It's called a PSAP, Public Service Access Point. I've checked, we're only permitted to have one for a county our size. So we can't create a duplicate PSAP. So we either do something like Hamilton County did and say, okay, we're going to move the PSAP. We're going to form an emergency services district. We're going to put it over here in this other building, and they're going to be doing it all.
How does that work in the other counties besides Mills? What are they doing? The sheriff's office handles the dispatch?
It's a mixed bag, but generally, yes. I mean, Hamilton, they're going the other way for their reasons that we probably shouldn't talk about here, but they decided to pull it all away from the sheriff and put it in a separate unit that's going to be run by an employee, not an elected official. Deputy Green, is there something you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, if you don't mind, everything you described here is an absolute misrepresentation of what's going on.
Would you take the microphone and come up and say this? And what's going on here is we're looking. This is the email from the sheriff.
Okay. The issue at hand is the way we dispatch Hamilton County EMS. Hamilton County EMS is making demands of our dispatch, calling in, giving our dispatchers, for lack of a better term, a butt chewing over the way things are done. We don't work for Hamilton EMS. We're not going to go change our policies, procedures, and how we do everything, because that's how Hamilton EMS does it. That's the entire issue. We have had zero consideration from this court or Hamilton EMS on how our procedures go. Our situation is not necessarily completely unique, but it is unique in the surrounding area. Our dispatchers also run the console of the jail and everything else. This has nothing to do with entering 911. This has nothing to do with dispatching fire, law enforcement, or anything else. We don't have necessarily a problem dispatching EMS. It's just we don't want to be dictated how our procedures are by a separate entity such as EMS. And also, don't believe the court has the authority to dictate that we will follow along with EMS's request. A simple sit down with the sheriff, our jail administrator, which is also the PSAP for the county, to discuss these things would have gone a long way, because I believe happened when this agreement was signed in 2019. The sheriff said, we need to talk about this because he has zero consideration in it when it was signed. He said at the time, no one has contacted him, EMS has not contacted him. We have yet heard from EMS trying to resolve all this. So as far as answering 911, that's a varsity that we won't answer 911. We always will. The problem is, once that call comes in for an ambulance, they need to coordinate where their personnel are going, what equipment is needed, and things of that nature.
So I'm a little bit ignorant. So if somebody calls in 911, it's gonna go to your
Correct.
dispatch. So if you don't dispatch for Hamilton,
We will send it to a number that they designate, that they can dispatch their own person. That's up to them.
you put on hold and dispatch and transfer.
Correct.
And so then whoever's, let's say it goes to Hamilton Hospital, they are gonna have to know how to direct the crew to find the appropriate part of Mills County to get the ambulance there.
Well, I'm surely they've got Google Maps in their end. Like I said, that's the consideration we're talking about.
Well, it seems to me this could have been addressed with some civil conversation between dispatch and the hospital. It doesn't need to be in court, but when the sheriff starts sending email about it, and it's not available to discuss it, it seems like it was an urgent matter.
He's been available up until last week.
That's when the email was sent last.
Now, we've been, y'all been emailing for a month now. There again, our position is the commissioner's court or the county judge cannot dictate what will happen in another department. Like you use Mike Wright as an example. You can't go to him and tell him you're going to start doing your road work this way. It's the exact same thing. You have no authority to tell the sheriff's office how to run their personnel, how to run their department.
We're not, the court in the resolution are not telling them how. It's saying provide the services that we have agreed to in court in an interlocal agreement. How you guys do it is between you and the ambulance company.
Okay, well, you need to read the agreement because it absolutely dictates how we will do things and what we will and won't do.
I believe the interlocal agreement just says that you will provide dispatch services.
Do you have a copy of the local?
I don't have it in front of me. Do you have it, Commissioner Williams?
No, I have a computer, but the computer's not working out.
Okay.
I can suggest maybe y'all all read it really good, specifically section 13.20 and all through that. Also exhibit C, you might want to look at that because it absolutely dictates what we will and won't do, how we'll do. That's the issue at hand. It does not always follow our protocols and what is available to us to make happen. Specifically, when they call for a helicopter, whatever helicopter we can get here quickest to me would mean that would be the most beneficial for the health of the community. But instead, we're dictated to contact a specific helicopter company, one of which the spouse of the head of EMS works for. Y'all can look into that all you want. But instead of doing what's best for the health of the community, they're wanting one specific one, no matter what. And when it doesn't happen that way, our people get in trouble. So,
Well, here's my concern. I just don't want to be lapsed with not having any EMS there.
absolutely.
And I don't want y'all to just drop us overnight and And then Hamilton's not on board either, and then our citizens are not getting served.
These emails have been going back and forth for a month anyway. And since
Well, this is
y'all are-
the first time the
I don't doubt that. I don't
So,
doubt that at all. But as a commissioner's court, yes, y'all need to be involved. As a commissioner's court, y'all need to look at this with hopefully some semblance of common sense to look at this and say, this is what's best for the citizens of Mills County. Oh, by the way, the guy that runs the dispatch probably ought to be involved with the discussion with what goes on with dispatch.
Why don't you guys provide the court with what you think is, give us a couple of solutions.
Number one,
In writings, I mean, we need to be able to have enough specifics that we can tie it out, look at cost and how hard it is to implement.
because it's not gonna be a quick cost fix.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's why we need to do this carefully and thoughtfly and understand exactly what we're looking
If I'm not mistaken, I think it took a while for us to get the radio frequency when we had to get that new one.
yeah, it's always one.
Yeah, that's fun. I mean, that's not gonna be overnight. That's gonna be a chore to get. And so.
Sounds
I
like
just
we have lack of communication between the court and the sheriff's office that we need to sit down and deal with.
at. I don't think there's any, I mean, the problem is between, okay, I'm not aware of any communication problem on the court side.
Well, can we table this and sit down as a court in the sheriff's office and try to resolve this without trying to force an elected official to do something he's not wanting to do, Judge?
You can make that motion. I think this is a critical enough issue to the community that I think we need to be real clear that it not be arbitrarily discontinued. But if you want to make a motion, Commissioner White.
Well, I know the sheriff's office. I think I know those people, and I don't think they'll leave us high and dry. I think we need to communicate with them and sit down and discuss it, and I so make that motion to table this.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wright to table, let me figure it.
Resolution.
To table the resolution with regard to the provision of dispatching ambulance services.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Me. Okay, 4-1, it's tabled. Okay, number 10, consider an act on, well, considering possible action. Report from the salary grievance committee. We had a salary grievance filed by the sheriff. We had a salary grievance committee meeting, excuse me, on July 22nd. We had 6 of the 9 members present. There's the report from the county clerk in your packet on who was there. I'll go ahead and read the relevant portions of the action. Judge Smith gave an overview of the process, local government code. Judge Smith presented for the county, followed by Kirk Folk presenting for Sheriff Clint Hammond. The committee moved into questions and answer portion of the meeting. Ballots were provided for committee votes. Mr. Jones moved to vote. This was after an extensive discussion. Ms. Allen seconded the motion, basically called the question. The results were 3 votes for the grievance, 2 votes against the increase, and 1 vote for a different amount of increase. So that's, and then all that is required is this be reported to Commissioner's Court, which it now is. It's on the agenda for, let me find it. Considering possible action in case the court wanted to do something, although that too is not required under the statute. So that we have now the report from the Salary Grievance Committee. Are there any questions? Okay, then there's no action to be taken there. I move we we accept the report from the Salary Grievance Committee. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting the report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are down to number 11, discussion, consider and possible action on the MCAD 2021 budget. Ms. McMahon, if you would come up and use our microphone, please.
Okay, I'm gonna let Jason do his thing first, and then you can make a comment. Is that okay, Jason?
Sure. Jason serves on the appraisal district
Yes.
board,
He
correct?
represents.
Okay. We'll get that on the.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have a budget in front of you. It was given to us last week. If y'all, or last court, have any questions or concerns or answers on it. The biggest change is that the board is requesting that we add another appraiser. And you can see that's at the very bottom, right above the total down there. And there's the salary for that and all of the stuff that goes with it: Social Security, retirement, health insurance, and workers' compensation. There is longevity pay that's also involved in the salaries there. If you'll look up, I think on the previous one, I think the biggest difference was on vehicles. We had a price of $4,000 in there for a new vehicle because we got insurance money from the previous one, and then we sold the other one at a live oak auction. And so we just, the board has, I don't know if that's a part of this, but are asking to retain the leftover monies from this year to just go ahead and pay that truck off, that new truck. And it was also told to us from the dealership it would be here in 4 to 6 weeks, and now we think it's more like 4 to 6 months. So, but that has to do with that. But instead of adding that salary to the budget with leftover monies and increasing this budget, we wanted to go ahead and keep those funds from the district so we can buy that vehicle. So we're not adding to this year's tax rate that we're trying to improve.
Has the board, appraisal board approved this budget?
Yes, they have unanimously. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you right now that, I mean, the board's discussed it in great detail. And the deed work is just through the roof right now. And I know that the clerk sees the same deed work. But also there's right at 200 new wildlife, asking for wildlife exemptions. All those have to be checked and inspected. And there's nearly 200 ag exemptions that have been requested. And so all those have to be physically checked. They had around 300 disputes over their taxes. And so again, so now you're pushing right at 500 things that they have to do, you know, physically.
What are those numbers for last year as a point of comparison?
You know, I don't know. You know, last year's budget, you remember last year? Yeah, I don't have that in front of me.
So that may or may not be more than last year.
She said it was a lot more, especially on the wildlife. The wildlife is going through the roof. So, and so our other representative, Mr. Jason Garlick, he made the comment in committee that, hey, this new hire will pay for itself, and I agree with him, just to help us with the wildlife exemption, because we know that is a huge problem right now. So, because right now, they're only being, only a handful are being drawn at a time. You know, each year she pulled them out of the file and not get it. She doesn't have time to
Well,
inspect it.
I mean, I've suggested in the past to the chief appraiser that if she would, a couple of times, if she would do a random spot check on some small number of those to see which ones actually do and don't qualify after the fact, and present the numbers back, that I would support fund, you know, if it turned out that it did in fact pay for itself, that it would be a worthwhile investment and we should do it. I've never had any response or any feedback for that.
I really think that if adding this employee will be a benefit, because the district in the past, and some of y'all may know further back, they've always had 4 to 5 employees, and they only have 3. So now we do have the company that comes out. I don't remember the name. That helps us. do
Western
evaluation.
Appraisal.
Western Appraisal. They come out and help us do evaluation. So that you could say that's your 4th person to help do appraisal.
Jason, I feel that if there'd been a problem with this budget, that you brought it to the attention of this court since you served as a member on that appraisal. And we
I
had
think
no-
if this doesn't help, you're going to definitely hear from me next year. Because I mean, we're putting this on Cody to upgrade this.
Absolutely, and I would do the same thing, because I used to be with Cody Sitz. Do I have this on?
Not yet.
I'm kind of loud anyway.
Well, but we want you on YouTube also.
Thank you.
There you go.
We are an extremely, we work very hard. And I certainly haven't tried to manipulate this court in any way, even though it's been said I have, and I hope you guys haven't felt like I have. And when we are doing our job, yeah, I represent the school district, but when you represent the school district, you also represent the county, because when we send out those tax statements, it has everybody on those tax statements. So we are trying to save everybody money. And I know that on the excess funds, the judge's deal is about the contract, because it does say the excess funds will go back. I mean, Gerald, on that, would we have to do an amendment? I mean, is that what the county would like, to amend that contract, or the schools are fine with the excess funds? So I don't know, is that what y'all are wanting?
If you don't know, I don't know either.
I mean, it's always been, it hasn't been an issue for anybody. I mean, it's up to the jurisdictions as to whether or not that is an issue for them.
Yeah,
Because,
it's jurisdiction, I guess. That's true.
and it hasn't been an issue for the other jurisdictions. I mean, it's just funds that we haven't spent, you know, and we've done a good job saving the money. And we're just trying not to have to go into another budget year and ask for funds, you know, tax. We're just trying to, money that we have
That
excess.
is if you have extra funds. Refunded.
Yeah,
Yeah. It says that.
but they can determine what we do with those funds. Yes. And we need a new vehicle, and that is what we're trying to do. And we're also trying to go ahead and build up the reserve in case something, you know, was to happen in the county. And we've nearly got our reserves built up.
Yeah, it's on that last page.
We've been doing that now for several years, trying to get that built.
Has the rest of the entities approved this budget?
We're on the agenda for the next go rate. They approved it, but they couldn't vote for it this time. They'll vote for it on the next meeting. And then the other jurisdictions have it on their agendas, but they've already said they don't have any problem. They would rather us keep the excess funds than ask for it in the budget.
Is
Has to be
some of,
approved by September the 15th, is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's right.
is some of your excess funds though, is that from the sale of the pickup and the insurance proceeds?
And it comes from like, people that come in and ask for, their, if they buy, they get their, the work tax certificates. Those are considered excess funds. And then our, this account that we've got our money in, the interest on that account, it's considered excess funds.
But the majority of this pickup money is insurance
Yes.
money and the sale of the
It is.
pickup.
It is.
So it's really not excess funds.
And, well, no, but we have to call it excess funds by law.
And the other thing, vehicle wise, I don't know what they're looking at. $32,665 seems like a pretty cheap pickup right now.
It's called a,
That's the bid.
yeah, and what is it called? It's a special kind of
It's a fleet.
fleet. It's a fleet vehicle. Yes. Oh, gee, I'm really finished.
And so one of it, if you look on the interest income on your second page there, the last 2 years when we switched our bank depository, usually it was 12,000. So look at all the extra income. Now the court hasn't been able to do that when we switched to Bancorp South from MC Bank. And so that's where she made the cost right here, the interest and all that other money coming in. So we weren't expecting that. It's been awesome to have, instead of $5, to have $500. So.
Thank you. You want me to sit down?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Judge, on the agenda, what are we voting on?
Well, first of all, the court does not have to approve the budget. The only action the court can do is we can disapprove it. I have it set up here with and if we do disapprove it, which we've done in prior years, you technically have to pass a resolution disapproving and send it to the secretary of the board. I have drafted such a resolution, thinking the court was going to disapprove it based on the high salaries in the unit. We disapproved it in court, as I recall, last year over the same reason. There's some other variables. For instance, Brown County's appraisal district budget is in their newspaper over the weekend. It's $1.4 million. Think how much bigger and how many more parcels they have. Ours is 450,000. So look at the salaries. The chief appraiser is paid more than most and maybe all of our elected officials. And it ripples on through the three staff members. And when I just don't think there's fiscal responsibility being demonstrated. And if the court will remember, the appraisal district came in with the urgent need to revise the interlocal, I think it was called the assessment and collection agreement. And it laid out a bunch of things. Some of it was statutory. Some of it had to do with what they did with the excess money. And that wasn't 45 days ago. And it just specified that if there's excess money, you wait till the audit. This was their lawyer prepared it for them. And then once it's audited excess money, it's returned to the taxing entities. And so it just seems, and we signed it, we approved it, the court signed it, and now we're being asked to just say, okay, that didn't count. And yet when I know from watching the appraisal district board, when we have gone to them with suggestions, everything from let's do a random sample of wildlife to see if we really have a upside benefit there, to let's look at curtailing compensation last year during COVID because we're trying to protect our taxpayers, to dealing with citizen complaints over they're closed on Friday afternoon. It just,
My concern.
my recommendation was to disapprove it with not expecting the school districts to do anything.
They have a board,
They do.
and they said, that I feel that if they felt like it was too high salaries, or they would say something. We have a member of our
lot of
court
those
that serves on the
salaries-
appraisal
A
board.
lot of those salaries were set, and they were set in previous, before I ever got on the board, so I can't do anything about those salaries. Unless we get rid of an employee.
That's the reason I asked to start with, if the board, appraisal board, approved this budget, and they did.
They
So
did.
if they had a problem with it, I felt like they would have been jumping up and down about it. Judge.
But it comes through us directly into our budget and into our taxpayers. And under the tax code, it has to come to Commissioner's Court to either take no action and accept or disapprove.
Yeah, it's a 30 days. When they give it to you, you have 30 days to disapprove it. So that's why it's got to be on all the other agendas. Hopefully, the school boards all meet within 30 days, or it's automatically approved. So you don't have to, there's no vote on it. It's just a resolution against it if you don't want it.
And that's
And
what's,
that's what's here in front of us. There's a resolution if we don't want it. It's all we have to do is sign it.
and if the court wants to take the insurance money and let them keep it and let them continue to build reserves, which to me doesn't make any sense, because the reserves are if the county and the school districts don't pay them. I mean, that's like building a reserve in every department in the county. We have taxing authority, we have the money, we have the budget, we do it every year. The idea that we're tapping our taxpayers to build a reserve in the appraisal district doesn't make sense to me.
Well, looks like they did.
So anyway, that might be a separate issue, because we're gonna have to revise to permit what they're proposing to do. We'll take a revision to the assessment and collection agreement that the court approved month before last.
Conceivably, if they run into trouble, could they go to their entities, ask them for a little money to help them?
Sure,
Uh,
I think we're obligated to fund. I mean, it's in our best interest. Probably 75% of the revenue of the county comes through the appraisal district.
Excuse me.
You've had your comment. If the court wants to call on you for something, they will, but otherwise, I think we're about through discussing this.
Well, I'd like to hear what she's.
Okay,
say.
then let's get her the microphone.
Okay, the appraisal district is not.
Could you hold it closer to your mouth?
Okay,
Thank you.
the appraisal district isn't a political entity, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. It was not set up as a political entity. So, we don't get elected, we are where we are because the state set us up. Up until this point in the year, we have collected over $6 million for the county. The part of what we're just asking to keep.
You mean for the entities?
No, for y'all, for the county. Have y'all not looked at your figure?
Yeah, our collections, our annual taxes are running $3.84 million.
All of it together is not right at 6 million?
I don't think so.
I'll double check that.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
it
you're
is for
way off.
everybody. Maybe that is for
Yeah.
everybody. I'll look that up. again. But what we're asking to keep is $8,000. That's what we're asking. Is that what we said you?
No, well, if you're going all entities, it's 40,000.
Yeah, it's 40.
Our portion of this county is 14,000.
I think that's
Yeah.
right.
But
But the issue on this isn't the money, it's the agreement with this. We just did a big legal document agreeing to something. We're gonna need to modify that. That's, you don't just come in and say, okay, you signed this agreement, but I want this money now.
And we did discuss this in the last board meeting, Mike, is how does this work since we changed it in the past, that's all we've ever done, that's all the board has ever done is they just asked to keep it. But when we did this new agreement, it doesn't say that way. So it did change that terminology. And then Cody was supposed to get with our attorney on the appraisal side and get back with us to see if we can just do that. All the other entities have agreed to that, and now it's brought up to this entity here.
Yeah, the other entities did not have an issue with using that verbiage, wasn't an issue for them, because you can, am I wrong, can you not? The board has the right to do that. They can say that they want, because it's a budget issue, they can say you can keep those, even though in the contract it says you can return it, but they can elect to say, well, we're gonna let you keep it because it's part of the budget.
Karen, you know a whole lot more about the things tax code than
Well, I do, but
I. I'm not gonna
yeah, I worked on it for 9 years. But we can amend it if it would make the judge more comfortable.
If we start doing things that are contrary to what we have agreed to, I mean, it's just not right. You need to have your agreements match what you're doing, or your auditors are going to stumble on it. The state might stumble on it. I mean, otherwise, why bother to have all these agreements? Why have a interlocal agreement if that's not what you're going to do?
Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so that's a lot of discussion on that. Like I said, I've prepared a resolution to decline it. If that's not the court's inclination, entertain a motion. We can either take no action or we can accept the budget.
That's reason, Judge, I'm asking on our agenda, it's the proposal 2021 budget. I don't see the resolution on the agenda.
Well, it's taking action on the budget. The resolution would be an action on the budget.
Yeah, it's what the statute says. So it says the only way you can, that an entity can approve or disapprove.
I thought the agenda that posted has everything listed what we're voting on. Is that not right?
No,
I don't have the agenda. They're obviously bound by the agenda.
under the open meetings law, the requirement on an agenda is to provide reasonable notice to a third party as to the nature of the items being discussed.
Well, it says
Considering possible action on the MCAT budget.
What you're missing is, whichever way it goes, you will feel whether approve or disapprove.
The resolution, it says resolution.
Right.
But you don't do anything.
There's a budget that I have.
That's right. You have the budget. I put it in the package.
That is
And
correct.
our choices are, under the tax code, we can do nothing. If we do nothing, the budget's considered approved and they work on it. If we want to go through just for the heck of it, approve it, we can do that. It says consider possible action. If you want to disapprove the budget, the Texas tax code requires a resolution. So what you have, yeah, to disapprove. So you've got three possible options you could take. You've got the information and the document to do all three. And that's what's on the table. And you've got my recommendation. But we've also, different people see it different ways.
Well, I just read what I see on the agenda and it says approve the possible action on approving the.
It doesn't say approve. It says consider and possible action on the budget.
Correct.
So here's the budget. So is there a motion?
I'll make
I
a
move we
motion.
disapprove.
Okay, we have one motion, we have a motion to disapprove. All second.
Wait,
Wait, who made that motion?
Okay, we have a motion to disapprove. I'll second the motion. All in favor of disapproving, say aye. Aye. So we have 3 in favor of disapproving. All opposed to that? 2 opposed. Okay. Now, our disapproval will be expressed to them by submitting the resolution. Okay, number 12, considering possible action on Clark Roofing proposal on hail damage. What's in your package, and I've shuffled my papers one too many times, is a revised proposal from Clark Roofing, which in effect has removed the replacement of the membrane roofing on the courthouse. This is still under discussion between engineers retained by our insurance and Clark and the manufacturer. But where it stands is, at this point, the engineer which TAC has retained had said there's not adequate penetrations, and we do not feel the membrane needs to be replaced. So flashing's dented, it's going to leak, and all that needs to be replaced. The shingles on the old jail need to be replaced, but not the underlying roof membrane. So this is Clark's proposal for doing that. This is, there's nothing here in writing, and I want to get it before we sign anything, but this is what verbally our insurance company said they would cover minus the deductible, because this was the original Clark proposal with the membrane. Insurance company said they wouldn't cover that. So here's what's left. I can't see in the audience. I invited Guy to, okay, good.
So they're actually bid for this is 200,000 goods. That's what we're looking at, $200,626.51. Is that correct?
he's just answering.
I'm looking.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, it
Okay, yeah, okay.
$200,626. That's to include the courthouse, the old jail, and the senior center. They're going to do those repairs for free because it's just, there's no roof damage other than just on the pipes. They go ahead and they said they would take care of that.
The scope of the work, guys, some of them marked out. What's that about?
Yes, sir, that's the TPO. They're not going to do any repairs. We met, and the engineer, the TAC engineer that they hired, an outside architect engineer, there was only one penetration for hail hit the TPO, and the rest of it, there was no penetration. He said there was not enough visible damage, even though the Clark Roofing said that there was damage underneath it. So they went and got a letter from the people who produce make this product. So it's a back and forth thing, but TAC's going to go with the engineer. I talked to the engineer when we had our meeting, and I said, so you're telling me that this roof is not going to leak, correct? He said, yes, sir. And I said, I can go back and tell our commissioners for it that this roof is good. Is that correct? And he said, yes, sir. So
Jason, you and Guy, y'all walk through this process with the contractors and stuff. Y'all been involved with it today.
Yes, I haven't been as much as Guy has. Guy's been right on top of it, but Guy has been in communication with me and also the historical commission and the judge on this. We're a little bit scared that they're saying that it won't, if it affected the way that roof is attached and it comes off, say 5 years down the road, that's a whole nother, well, it's a whole nother deductible. It's a whole nother, so who's to say that it hasn't been affected? The only way you're gonna be able to tell is you pull it up to see if it's been affected, so. And then the breakdown, the way I do the research on this TPO is that it doesn't just happen right now, that hail broke down the inside of that layer, and then it will slowly, with the heat, the moisture, the rain, the contraction, it will slowly break away and then moisture will get inside. So you're probably not gonna see the effects for at least 2 years, 3 years down the road. Now, could insurance come back and pay for it? Yes. But what Clark's Roofing's big concern, am I right? They don't want us to have to pay a second deductible because that deductible is way up there. I mean, it's,
The deductible is $5,000, as I recall, isn't it?
but that could, yeah.
Yeah.
But insurance could change too.
Sure, absolutely.
And if I can say, we're basically at the mercy of the insurance. That's the way I read it. With all the discussions I've had with the contractor, with the insurance adjuster and everything, they brought in their own architect engineer. And according to his expertise, all of it is good. It's not gonna be.
And what's interesting, Mike, is that when we interviewed all these roofers, they said, oh, yeah, we can get it done. We deal with it. We deal with the insurance all the time and deal with the, the adjusters. They're not waiting. They're not changing their mind. I mean, they hired an independent engineer to come out and look at it. So,
It's going to have to be fixed. Is it not?
Yeah.
yeah.
And we've got
so-
to do
Yeah.
the progress. Y'all been working on it diligently for the last several months, so.
We do know that the flashing has leaked. We do know that. We've had a lot of rain to prove that, and that is on there to be fixed. So. But we need to get the windows up to, I mean, get the glass fixed, but we don't have all the seals fixed.
Mhm.
So.
Is the money, I'm taking this at face clear, this way I'm reading it. The insurance is gonna pay 138,000. Or what's our insurance on there?
My understanding is our insurance will pay all but $5,000 of the deductible. Now, I do not, I would not propose to execute the contract until we get something in writing saying how much they will pay. Because it should be 100, round numbers, 195,000.
What it's gonna cost minus 5,000.
Yeah, so the cost to the county should be the deductible.
Okay.
But, what I'd propose is the court authorize this proposal, and with understanding that the judge is not going to sign it and release it until we have a commitment for the insurance company to pay everything but the deductible.
I so make that motion, Judge.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Now, we are down to budget discussion for the fiscal year. Let me just say that the budget got sidelined last week with the grievance, and is back in high gear. And it's my intent to have a preliminary budget filed by the end of the week to get it done in July. We have meetings. I'll send it to you guys as soon as we get it done. Ms. Campbell and I will be working on it continuously. Then we'll have Commissioners Court meetings scheduled every Monday in August to work through it, including an advertised public hearing. And then whatever comes out, the end of that sausage making would be served up for approval. So that's where we are on the budget. Let's see, commissioners requests and reports. Commissioner Wright.
I got a call this morning from TxDOT. They were supposed to start delivering our material. They're gonna do it start next Monday. August the 2nd.
We've been busy blading roads and we've had to install several tin-offs. That's what we've been doing. That's all I have.
And then when they start delivering it, it's available for the other precincts to pick up?
Yes, sir. I'll distribute it, pilot in 4 piles. There's gonna be 32 loads, and that's 8 loads each, and I'll have a track loader available for you to pick up. Jason and Robert, precinct 3, Dale, he's never since it's new to him, but they've always brought some fuel and whatever else at my request. And Jason never, he brings it anyway, so we
Okay.
appreciate that, precinct 1. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Guerin.
We've been cleaning up some fallen trees we lost during the big storm and morphed across the road and doing some blading when morphed will come in. That's it.
Commissioner Parkman.
We're just about through around pretty with what we can get done from our fast drain, which took about 2 months to repair. Been spraying a good bit of Johnson grass. People are complaining about it. I had also, I guess, in report to request, early on, I had talked to, I think his name's Chris, the ex-doc guy, Brown County, about that allocation. And he never really said, he said, well, y'all can get your allocation out of the space, that's over at Pompey Mountain, the crush stuff. And I just told him, I said, well, if you can check on me, I said, if we're gonna get it, we're gonna have to grind it. So I really don't want it to be yard for yard. But I never heard anything back from him.
Is that related to the delivery that Commissioner Wright's talking to them about?
Yes, different.
It's
Probably
different, it's a different situation.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's what I was saying was I would be interested, but not if y'all are gonna allocate us so and so many yards. I don't want this stuff that's in that pile out there, yard for good stuff.
What Dale's talking about, Judge, is that TxDOT went in on some of these highways and regenerated some of that pavement and they piled it, stockpiled it.
Yeah, they recycled asphalt or something.
It's got bleaching in it, has asphalt in it. And he's asking maybe take that instead of some of this crushed granite that they deliver us.
yeah, and so that process starts back, when we get that letter, what, in January, February?
Yeah,
And so that's when we say what we want,
Right.
what material. So if we're gonna do that, I think we have to do that next year.
We accepted the grant.
We accept, yes.
okay, yeah, because I think that ground asphalt might have some applications where we have county roads that are in either pretty or model. Okay.
Yeah.
And it'd be good material, like Dale's saying, he's gonna have to crush some of it,
Yeah.
with the crusher and stuff for his roads, but it might be road base.
So I really think we need to discuss that with them when they do that new letter and they send it out. And if we can get that, that instead of, maybe a yard and a half instead of just a yard or something, whatever, they might give us extra.
I mean, you sure don't want stuff if you're gonna have to work on it, dollar for dollar.
There's some pretty good pieces of asphalt in there if you're not careful.
I was thinking more like 2 for 1.
Oh, 2 for 1. Maybe.
Okay, Commissioner Williams.
So I got to say thank you to Jed and checking on my guys a little bit last week. I was kind of out of the office most of the week. My past life come up and haunted me since I used to be a flower shop and do my son's wedding. So I'm very tired today, but so Jed checked on them, make sure everything was going right. We had bladed as many rows as we could. And I think we're done on that because of the weather. That's pretty much what we did in the last couple of weeks is just bladed. One thing I want to bring to the attention of the court, I think Mike is aware of this. I don't know if everybody is, but where we get our fuel supply, our distributor is no more. He has closed his doors, and that is Miller Distributing. And so we have about 3 different options. We can go to PF&E, which is out of Brownwood. There is one, I think he's out of Hamilton, Shunk or something. Shrunk. And then there's one in Sensata.
I've contacted PF&E because we buy all of our hydraulic and motor oil. And also I've gotten this summer about a number we have to have on a diesel. And I made that available. I don't know if you ever got a call with them. That's been about 3 weeks ago.
I talked to a Miss Peterson over that runs the one in Sensata, and she's willing to come over. She's already servicing several businesses in Mills County and several ranchers. And so she's willing. She is basically the same as Billy Miller. And she will come to our yards and do that. Price wise, I don't know because it's so fluctuating right now. But that I've got her phone number if y'all are interested. And she said that she could look up that number. Because I said I didn't have it.
We
And
had
so,
it, Summer has it, I've turned it in.
okay.
I
So,
got it,
but we'll-
I got it from Billy.
Okay. Well, Billy just said that he gave everything to Mike, and I hadn't heard from you, and so I'm like, I need fuel, and Billy's like, I told Mike, but I didn't know anything about it, so.
Well, like I'm saying, that was his choice of closing down. And
Well, I understand, but I didn't know.
It's our responsibility to try to find fuel, and we do have a credit card that we can buy from the station if we have to. It's just better for us, precinct 1, we buy it in bulk.
Yes.
We're the second way, so I'll probably order fuel this week because we're gonna be out. So, but other than that, I guess that's all I have.
Okay, I've got a little list of odds and ends. Let's start with COVID. It's starting up again in our little 7-county hospital district. There were 122 people in the hospital yesterday in that area with COVID. And a week ago, it was 68. So that's doubled in about a week. Yesterday, the weekly report for Brown County was 55 new cases. That's after, we went for a month or so where it was kind of a couple of months unusual to even have a new case. So it's back on the horizon. Mills County, we are approximately 35% vaccinated. That's about 1,500 residents. So there's fuel for the fire, so to speak. The thing to note that this new Delta variant that's circulating, the symptoms are a little different. It's more like a cold with headache and sore throat. Less common with the cough. The governor's emergency orders on the COVID emergency that let us have quorums and vote remotely. Those expire September 1st. Remains to be seen whether that'll change, but here we are together in person, so it may not matter. The county passed an annual inspection from, actually it's less frequently than annual, but an inspection from TCEQ on the administration of septic permits and processes in the county. And with our approval action was basically says no action items were noted. So that was well done for Jackie and before her, Sonia Scott, and then Al Hamrick. Unemployment, according to the Workforce Commission, is declining somewhat across Central Texas and in Mills County. And we received from the appraisal district a certified tax roll that we'll be working on for this budget year. It is really unchanged. It's $645 million. That's just 4.1 million more than last year. So a very tiny percent increase. And that's the overall roll. That's not market value of stuff in Mills County. That number is closer to 2 billion. But by the time you take out wildlife and ag and homestead and over 65 and the veterans, this 645 million is the taxable number. So that's all I've got.
Judge, we might be keep it on the back of our head about the burn ban. If they're gonna keep staying over 100 digits for the next 2 weeks, we might better check with our
I agree.
fire.
Remember, we're going to meet every Monday in August. So that'll be, I'll start putting that on each week's agenda in case we need to act on it.
Oh, you mentioned septic system.
Yeah.
You know, permits and stuff. Who inspects those after the fact? I say a year or 2 years later, even if they have a septic system.
It depends on the type of septic system. If you have a plain, what I call a conventional system, tank and drain field, once it's installed and permitted, there's no reinspection required unless there's a major repair.
Okay.
So now, if you have some of these other specialty types of systems, aerobics, the one that comes to mind where it sprays it around the yard, that requires an annual inspection.
What if no septic system whatsoever?
Well, obviously, I don't understand the question. I mean, we don't inspect no septic system.
What I'm saying is, how can we handle, we suspect someone dumping their raw sewage on the ground?
And that's happened once that I'm aware of. We had a citizen that was complaining, thought that was happening. We send our septic inspector, we have a designated representative, his name's Al Hamrick, out to confirm. And if that's happening, and this is where it started getting sideways, it's a Class C misdemeanor. And you can file a complaint through the Justice Court as a Class C misdemeanor, as a daily fine until it's
I've been
corrected.
approached that situation,
Yeah.
and I didn't know where to turn to.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm asking.
The cleanest thing would be for them to put something in writing and send it to me, and I'll see that it gets to Al Hammer.
That's all.
Judge, before we adjourn, when I answered the question about the agenda, I guess I was under the assumption that tax office budget cycle was consistent with the county's from October to October. Ms. McMahon pointed out to me that the budget cycle was January 31. So the agenda item says that's not right. Maybe I didn't understand what the point does appear to me.
Well, this is the one that covers the county's fiscal year of 21, 22, because that's the one that we're providing the budget for. That's the logic of the agenda description.
We're talking about the county budget, okay, we're talking about the budget. Problem. I'm not going to tell you what to do about that.
That's the reason I brought it up, the situation that we had. I didn't know what we were voting on. We were talking.
I did.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.